back to Comic Book Corner 2.0 and fans. You're with me, Mike Spider Slayer. Guys, welcome back to Countdown episode number 42, guys. Last week I didn't have a countdown. There was only 5 books anyway. Lots going on with the holidays, guys, so I do apologize. Kids being home, working, and everything else, it's really tough to get things done. This week is kind of the same thing. Only 7 books came out, but I wanted to do one. I didn't want to skip another week, and it'll be probably one more week of things being a little bit abnormal, and then we'll start getting a regular schedule back again. So, with that being said, let's just jump right into this countdown. I have 7 books all together this week. Not, no digital, and only 1 Marvel book. So, with that being said, let's get started, and we're going to start with number 7. And number 7 is Justice League Dark, issue number 26. I didn't even mean to buy this book. This book was in my pull list. I knew it was there. I forgot to take it out. When I went to go buy my comics, I forgot to give it back to the guy because I was so busy talking about other things going on in the comic book world. I forgot to give it to him. So when I open my bag and I'm doing my haul and stuff, I'm sitting there going, oh no, it's this Justice League Dark. And it's the Blight. And I have nothing against, people liking this at all. If you're a fan of the darker side and the mysterious side of the Question and Pandora and and all of them, and you're gonna like this. However, I was not a fan. I got through halfway of it and I was just like, oh my god, this is absolute torture. You got Constantine floating around and with his head chopped off and everything, and I'm just like, what's going on over here? The artwork's okay, but this has to do with supposedly the Sea King actually coming around, and that's pretty cool, you think, but I just didn't like it. I actually got halfway through it and I put it down. It was like a chore for me to read, and when there's a comic out there that you're forced to read and that you don't like it, I just don't enjoy it, and I'm not going to give it a real rating, just for the reason being is I didn't read the whole thing. But if you guys are a fan of these characters, you might like this. So go out, check it out if you like it. Me, not my cup of tea. So that's why it got number 7 on my list this week. So with that being said, and I'm still sick. God, you think I should have seen a doctor? Yeah, no, I'm not. Because it's going away. It's just taking a long time. So, number 6 was Aquaman, issue number 26. I dropped Superman Unchained because I'm not a huge Superman fan to begin with. And I found that the main story of the issue was kind of boring. And I was like, oh, so what am I going to substitute with? Well, Jeff Johns leaving Aquaman. So I said, well, let me try Aquaman. We got Jeff Parker on there. Guy's name's Jeff. We'll see. And I said, and they're starting a new story arc. So I said, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see how it is. And we'll see where it goes. So in this particular issue of Aquaman, this reminded me of a generic Godzilla movie. Fighting some kind of sea creature. Because what you see in this issue is you get to see a lot of big, badass, Godzilla-like creature, just like this. And I found myself, when reading the actual issue, I found it very forgettable. And I didn't feel that it was a good jumping on point for readers. You think it would. I really don't get into the description of who really Mara is in the whole thing. I know who she is, but they don't really describe everything that's going on. They go into Atlantis. They're talking about all these weird sea things. And, I'm not an oceanographer. I didn't find anything of it really interesting. So I found it quite boring. And then when it came to the point of him fighting this gigantic sea creature, I was like, oh, this is really generic. This is a really generic like comic. He's fighting some sea creature, Aquaman fighting a sea creature, and Mera tells him that the creature's too big and too powerful to actually try to mind control it. And what happens is he's forced to use his mind control to talk to the creature. And what happens is by the end of the issue, you get to see it looks like Aquaman go into some kind of other dimension like thing. So, and you hear him talking to Mira. He's like, Mira, I don't know where I am or what's not here now. He's like, I'm somewhere else. And in the end, it's called Next Monsters and Monarchs. You know, for a new writer, I'm looking for something to jump onto, something to be excited about, something that really cliffhanged me to say, I want to buy this second issue. And by the time I got to the end of this issue, I found myself going, what did I just read? And I hate when a comic does that. And so for that reason, I'm not going to purchase the next issue of this book. I'll find something else, I'm sure, to replace Superman Unchained or Aquaman or whatever else there is out there. I don't know how many of you are Aquaman fans, but this was, again, a very generic type of filler issue, and I'm going to give this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars. So with that being said, we're going to be moving on to number 5, top 5, and that is Batman, Damian, the son of Batman. Last issue was very cheese whiz, and this issue is kind of cheese whiz too. Damian is the new Batman, as we know. This future is an Elsewhere tale. It takes place in the future. Bruce Wayne's retired. Damian is the new Batman. So what happens is Pig kind of throws him out the window with all his little doll boys and girls or whatever it is, and he survives this fall by landing in some kind of trash river or whatever it is. And then what happens is in the issue you get to see Alfred come to Damian's attention because he made a vow, a promise to take care of Damian. So as the issue goes along, you get to witness something pretty emotional here. Narration is done really well, I thought, in the beginning, which was done by Alfred. And Alfred is getting old, and he admits that. And then what happens in issues, he actually dies. And you're just like, oh wow, that's pretty crazy. He just drops dead out of really not old age, but I guess the exhaustion of over the years has caught up to him. What I found kind of weird, is that, a little while later, Damien winds up surviving this fall, which is okay. He's a human. He's still a man. And he survives this fall. You come across these generic-like creatures, and you find Damien talking to a cat who he thinks is Alfred. And, I guess he admits that in the issue, which I thought was also a little bit weird as well. The artwork is pretty solid in the issue. I do like the artwork in here. I like this 2-page spread. I'm still not a fan of the costume. And, it's Damien going after Pig's men. And then at the end of the issue, you get to see the Joker make his return. But it's not the real Joker that we all know and love. It is a second-generation Joker. And he calls himself the Joker. And he's a little bit different looking. So, this was okay. It had good moments in it. I thought it was better than the last issue. However, will I finish issue 4? Yes. But I thought it was just average. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Even though it had its good moments, I just still thought it was an average book. Pretty generic as well. Just reminded me of a classic 90s comic book, and that's what this was. So, 3 out of 5. I guess you get these kind of books during the holidays. It's just not a great week. Next, we go on to number 4. And number 4 was Forever Evil, Argus, issue number 3. Now, this book is really starting to go out there now. Last issue you get to see Steve Trevor, who gets this art key. It opens up these. He gets access to all these secret rooms, and he winds up hiding the president into this green room. And he goes into a Wonder Woman's room, or what's called the Wonder Room, um, which was really interesting. And in this time, you get to see Dr. Light, who's just appearing out of all over the place. He interacts with his family. His family's really scared. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And then the book goes into detail about Steve going into Diana's, going into his memories. You see a memory of him and Diana, what they shared with each other. And it was because of a cause, because he wants to find what happened to Diana. And these creatures here, um, what are they called? They're called the Morena, whatever they are. These girls right here, they feed off of people's memories because they don't have their own. And so they fed off of Steve Trevor's memory of him and Diana in exchange to find out, in a way, I guess, what can happen to Diana or find a resolution. So what happens is they transport they transport Steve Trevor into these uh, into the woods, into this cabin, and he meets up with Professor Stein and Emma Frost, which was hysterical because they're all somewhat want to interact with Firestorm because Steve Trevor finds out that all the Justice League is trapped within the Firestorm. And Professor Stein winds up going into this detail about how the Matrix works and how it will overload itself if there's too many people with it that's involved. And so they have to, they have to find a way to actually stop everything that's happening in here. Side stories in here is you get um, what's going on with the green room because you got the president trapped in there, or it's a green room to protect him. But you want to know more about this particular green room, and they show that in the issue. I'm trying to find it real quick. We get the other main character in here where she's trying to find out what this is and what the secrets are, and she comes across like this mysterious person that's in this green room. So that's really interesting too. Then we also find out that there's these people called the Crimson Men who want Dr. Light. For what reasons, we don't know, but they say they can control him. They say they can get his family back. And you're like, whoa, well, now we're throwing another element in this book. I didn't think it was as good as the last issue, but it still intrigues me. There's a lot going on here, and it's a pretty good in-depth story compared to the other Forever Evil tie-ins, where they seem to just be telling these random story, but for no real reason. There's no purpose. This seems like it has a purpose. I just don't know, how it's all going to end up with Dr. Light, how Steve Trevor's going to find Wonder Woman, and Killer Frost is going to be in here. So really interesting, but I did like it. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Not a 4, not quite there, 3.5. So moving on now, we go on to our top 3. Number 3, and number 3 is The Flash, issue number 26. So Francis Menopause, Brian Buccellato are moving on. They're going on to Detective Comics. And with that, we get Christos Gage and Neil Gooch. And the artwork in this book, it's not as good, but it has its own type of feel. You don't really see a copy going on, and that's why I like this type of original art that I see going on for this series. I said it in my haul video. I think this is the artist who did that Villains Month issue for Harley Quinn, because the artwork and the facial expressions really look kind of the same to me on that. So I was talking about a jumping on point for a particular series. And I think for Flash, it's a little bit easier because you get to learn about Barry Allen and you get to learn about the Flash and his powers in this issue and how they work. And the book does a really good job of describing what his powers can and can't do. And I like his narration here of, compared to Superman and how fast he is. The actual story itself was a little generic with him fighting this one character called Spitfire, trying to stop this plague that was going on. but I like flashback parts of the book. I like the paneling in it. I thought it was pretty neat, and I see this book actually having good potential moving forward. Um, Again, the one thing I didn't like about it was a little generic, but I guess when you're in between story arcs and new artists trying to get a feel of the character, introducing or reintroducing a character to you, I guess that's what you're going to get. But at least they did it in a good way in this particular issue. Um, so, with that being said, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I did enjoy it because I just loved learning about what the Flash can and can't do. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, even though it was filler. It may not be a high 4, almost a 3.25 star, but I'm going to give it a 4. I give it a benefit of the doubt. I think it's going to be still a solid written series. So moving on, I'm going to go on to number 2. And number 2 was issue number 26 of Red Lanterns. Now, I like this issue. The last issue was very wordy, very bored. I didn't like it whatsoever. This one had a lot more. Um, you felt a little bit more connected to the characters in this issue, and excuse me, and I'll tell you why. Um, in the opening parts of this issue, you get to see what's his name, Zoc, I think it is. He's trying to fix the spaceship that he stole from these space pirates. That's what I'm going to call them. And the reason why these pirates are after the Red Lanterns is because the Red Lanterns are the one that took this spaceship from these guys to begin with, and supposedly killed this one character, and it's this character right here. And I guess he didn't die or whatnot, and so they know what was going on. So that's why they want these lanterns killed. And the Red Lanterns are now in control of Space Sector 2814, and these guys are in their sector, and they want to take care of them. But our lanterns wind up getting captured, and it's so funny because they're like they can't power their rage. They can't, access their rings or anything because they're all drugged up, and they're like, "Hey man, I like your hair. It's all hot and fiery," and then you get the others are saying, "Dude, please, I like soul wings. They're all cool." So they're like all drugged up. So like I said, they're all drugged up and they can't do anything because they're in this type of force field. So just as they are about to get killed, what happens in the actual issue is they're going to get executed, and Ratchet somehow breaks the spell of what's going on and uses his technicals to actually protect the other Red Lanterns, which was very, a touching moment for, I guess, a Red Lantern book where it's all about rage and killing and blood and gore and things like that. And the next thing you see is that you get their little ship that's all souped up with Red Lantern powers, and they start blowing everybody up. Dude, it was freaking awesome. I really like that. And in the end, you get to see, what happens to the main leader, the main bad guy, or whatnot. And, you get to see what happens with the Red Lanterns. And another story is that what happens is due to the injuries, Ratchet actually passes away, and again, he's that little squid-looking dude, and you get to see his ring disappear. Now, on the other note, you get to see this side story between what happens with Dexter and Atrocitus, where they went to destroy this other Red Lantern, this brand new Red Lantern, but the guy is gigantic and huge. And you see Atrocitus like go in his ear and he tries to kill him, internally through his brain. And he succeeds in that. And what happens at the end of the issue is he winds up victorious, popping out of the creature's eyeball, and he winds up getting a Red Lantern ring. Now, this creature is a Red Lantern, so which ring did he get? Did he get the Red Lantern ring from this creature, or did he get the Red Lantern ring from Ratchet, who just got killed? So I'm not sure there what happens. It was a little unclear. But however, it's a very good issue. Lots of dialogue here to read, to find out what happened to Ratchet and everything else. And I really like the direction of where the Red Lanterns are going, because before it was like a whole bunch of them and everything, And the book seems to focus on just these 4 or 5 main characters, and I really enjoy that. I really do. And it's interesting to see where Guy's going to take these characters, and it's interesting to see where Atrocitus is going to fit all of this, because he wants to get back at Guy, obviously, and reclaim the leadership or the throne of the Red Lantern's leader. So this is going to be an interesting story that has great potential, so much better than where the Green Lantern books are right now. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5 as well. You know what? 4.5 out of 5. This is better than Flash by far, I thought. Okay, so next, with the #1 book of the week, and it is the only Marvel book that was released this week, but it did get #1, and it will be officially the first #1 book of the year, and that is The Superior Foes of Spider-Man, issue #7. So this will be the first book that will be in the voting for Comic of the Year 2014. There will be 52 books involved, but this is the first book, and hopefully we'll remember it, because this is a really good origin tale of the new Beetle. You know, when we were introduced to this new Sinister Six or Sinister Five, or whoever you want to call them, we don't know too much about certain characters. We knew more about Boomerang because he's been in past issues of Spider-Man, but the book does a really good job at reintroducing the character, telling him, go more in depth about who he was, how he played for a baseball team, you know, things of that nature. Now, in the last issue, we get to see her dial her cell phone and get in contact with Tombstone. And Tombstone is her father. Who would have thought? So in this issue, instead of continuing the story of what happened, they want to brief you and fill you in on who the new Beetle is and where she came from. And I thought this was a great issue on describing on who she was. And the humor was, it was perfect when needed, and the writing was just phenomenal. I tell you, Nick Spencer is all over this book. I think he does a great job with it. The artwork was really good, and you get to see from all the way back from where Janice is her name, was a little girl, and you get to see her do her first bad thing, you know, mess around with some girl's birthday party by teasing her that she has this cute little puppy dog, and then by the end of it all, you get to see at the end of the birthday party that's like, psych, the puppy's just with me, you know. So really interesting. And then you get to see other things that happened when she was in high school, when she graduated, how supposedly she got valedictorian because of an accident from another person. And then you get to see some great things with Tombstone here. You know, you've always known Tombstone as an asshole, a badass mobster in the Spider-Man universe. But you never knew that he had this daughter and how he cares so much for this daughter. And he always wants to put her on the right track. He doesn't want to put her in crime. He doesn't want her to be a villain. And because that's what she wants. She doesn't want nice cars or anything like that. She wants to be a crime lord, but the boss. She wants to be a villain. And she said it. She's like, I want tech. I want gear. She's like, I want some training. She's like, I want to be a bad guy. And Tombstone, it's so funny. He's like, he's eating and things like that. He's like, oh, you know what? That's not what I want. You know, he wants to be a lawyer. That's where you're going to make the money. You're going to steal money that way, legally. And it was really interesting to see how the interactions and how much he cares for his daughter. So fantastic there. Thumbs up for Nick Spencer on this. So you actually get to see great paneling here about how busy her day really is. And they describe that in here. And then in the towards the end of the issue, what happens is excuse me, you get to see her interact with Zemo and what's his name? Is it the Thinker? I'm not sure exactly. I think it was. But you see these interactions, and she comes up with this idea of how to be a super villain. So you get to see the origin of that. And really great stuff. I love like the drawings, because Tombstone continues to always counsel his daughter, always look out for her. And in the meantime, while he's doing that, he talks to to Janice, and he sits there, and while he talks to her, he wants to remind her of these anniversaries of her first job. The first thing that she did was bad. But on the side, you see him, leaning against the car, with the body sitting there next to it. I just thought all those moments like that were great. I really highly recommend um, Superior Foes of Spider-Man. This is a great book. It really digs deep into these villains of Spider-Man that we've known. It just adds another dimension. So when you see these villains again, maybe in The Amazing Spider-Man or Superior Spider-Man, you're going to know who these guys are, and you're going to know how their characters are. Now, if it crosses over into the Amazing Spider-Man or Superior Spider-Man universe, I think that their personalities are going to have to shine based off of this book, but is really great. And hopefully we get to learn more about these characters like Speed Demon and Shocker, and more in depth of them, just like we learned about the Beetle. I think the Beetle was perfect here, just for the fact being that we've never seen her before. So it was a good character to do, and hopefully the story continues. So all right, that's enough about that. This got #1, and this got 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. Best book. This was the book that I sat there and said, finally, a really good book this week. Really good. I put it down. I'm like, God, because this week it was really kind of rough with books being, above average. So there you guys have it. There's the countdown for the week. You've seen the worst and you've seen the best. The first countdown of the year. So guys, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And until the next comic book review, this is Spider Slayer signing off. See you guys real soon. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.